Now we are going to start a very important session, which is the S.N. Gundurao Memorial Lecture. And I hope the speaker, Dr. Atre, is already on the line. He has to unmute himself. Dr. Atre, this is Narendra Mohan, the chairman of the session. You are already on the line. If you can unmute yourself and yeah. Thank you. So Dr. Atre is with us, and friends, we are going to start the S.N. Gundurao Memorial Lecture, which is on a very important topic, an update of the competitiveness of different sugarcane industry in an era of low sugar prices. So all the time we are talking about the economic sustainability of the sugar industry. We are talking about the environmental sustainability of the sugar industry, not only in the globe. So Dr. Jean Atre, he is the General Secretary of International Society of Sugarcane Technologists. We all know him, so he needs no more introduction. The name is enough for all of us. So he is going to deliver the S.N. Gundurao Memorial Lecture this year. So thanks a lot, Dr. Atre, for being here and acceding our request to deliver the lecture. It is over to you for your lecture. Dr. Atre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's, of course, a great honor and privilege for me to deliver the S.N. Gundurao Memorial Lecture. I wish I were with you in India for this 78th Sky Congress, but this year it is virtual. Let's hopefully next year it will be in person. If you see me, you will see that I wear no mask while you are wearing one. The reason being, for the last 6 months now, we have had no COVID-19 case in Mauritius. We have a bit conquered the virus, but its effect on the economies of course crippling, especially the tourist industry, but not on the sugar industry. Fortunately, the crop is on and well on, and we are proceeding with it without any impediment from the virus. The title of my talk today speaks for itself. We are in an era of low sugar prices, and I'm going to try to speak about the competitiveness of our various sugar industries. Now, directly in the talk, you will see that you are familiar to that, but just as a recall, you will see the evolution of sugar prices over the last 12 years. We have low prices in 2008, then to 2015, then we had in 2018, and also a 13-year low in 2020. Now, those prices, why are they been low prices? For example, in 2018, it's because of huge surplus in production and very high global stocks. Now, COVID-19 has also taken its toll on the industry, because in April this year, the price of sugar was $9.42 a pound, which is very low. Now, the question is, when will sugar prices reach a turning point? What you can see on this graph are, in fact, portions or periods of 5 years, and you will see how the prices go up and down. They go up because there is a lack of sugar. Then they go down because there is a surplus of sugar. And this goes on like that in I would say, in some sort of cycle. And this when prices go up, there is it's good for industry, but eventually when the prices go down, there is underinvestment in new production capacity, which you end up with deficits. Now, what about the world price and the average price? The world price is one thing, the average price is another thing. Most sugar industries, they sell part of their production in markets which are protected, and the prices are different. On the world, the world market, about 33% of world production is traded and is priced against world market benchmarks. And there are two references, which is the ICE of New York for raw sugar and the ICE London for white sugar. Now, there are big differences in the price at which sugar is sold because domestic sugar prices can be very different. Some producers export to the world market but earn far higher prices on their domestic market, and sugar prices also differ according, of course, to sugar quality. Now, if you look during the past 4 years, whatever, you will see in October in 2018, from August to October, the prices, were down. Then they went up a bit in December 2019, and this year they went down, as you can see, in March. So on average, if you look at a 10-year average, it is a 17.1 US cents per pound. On a 5-year average, it is 14.6. And for last year, the average is 12.7. This shows huge fluctuation in sugar prices, which is not to the benefit of those who are selling, of course, on the world market. Now, again, the same graph, which is updated to 2020, you will see that we have gone to 12 points. The average price for 2020 up to now has been 12.5 US cents per pound. So the COVID pandemic has seen prices crash in April 2020 to a 13-year low, which is and the prices are about 12.5 US cents. So what we can conclude is that market needs to move strongly into a physical deficit if prices are to recover significantly. So what we need is I would say, a decreased production, especially in the major countries, so that we can have a rebound in prices. Now, in 2020, you will see that in 2019 rather, you will see that there was a surplus 2018, 2019, but we thought that in 2019, 2020, there would be a deficit, as seen on the right-hand side of the graph. But as a matter of fact, what we are in fact seeing is that in 2019, 20, and 2021, there will be what we call a very shallow deficit. A shallow deficit will not lead to an increase, unfortunately, in prices. And if you look at the average, what will be now the price of sugar in 2021? On the left, you have the illustration between a bullish market and a bearish market. And, well, we have to guess what's going to happen next year. Now, if you look at Brazil, Brazil dominates the world sugarcane market, as you know. Last year, in 2019, Brazil produced a lot of ethanol, less sugar. And in fact, what Brazil did by producing more ethanol, it removed 10 million tons of sugar from the market. But in 2020, with the low price of oil, Brazil went into more sugar and less ethanol. As a matter of fact, if you take the center-south region of Brazil, all of you know Brazil, of course, the Sao Paulo region, there was an increase in sugar of 35%. In fact, there were 9 million tons more sugar in the market in Brazil, which means that when we want to have a deficit to increase prices, at the same time, our wish is not being met because of the movement in Brazil, moving from ethanol to sugar, and you can see the effect. And the magnitude of the effect, because we are having 9 million tons more sugar. Now, we have carried out a study. The study was centered towards Africa because Mauritius, as you know, you can see on the map, is part of Africa. But we also included other countries, big countries, Australia, Brazil, India, and Thailand, and the other countries over there in Africa, including Mauritius, South Africa, etc. Now, if you look at the national sugar balance, you will see that the big exporters, of course, are Brazil, are Thailand, are India, are Australia. But some countries in Africa do export. For example, Swaziland, 500,000 tons, Mauritius, more than 300,000 tons, which is 90% of its production, etc. In fact, the biggest importer in Nigeria, in Africa, is Nigeria, where you will see that it has imported 1.5 million tons of sugar. So this is the situation. Of course, those many countries in Africa, they produce for their own market. They barely export. Therefore, it's a bit of a protected market. But South Africa, you will see, the exports, it consumes and exports nearly 400,000 tons of sugar. But the biggest exporter is Swaziland, Eswatini. Now, in our benchmarking study, we were looking at production cost. What are the factors that are involved? First of all, you have agroclimatic factors, which affect field performance, which is cane yield, sucrose content, sucrose recovery, and the technical performance, which is the mill performance, the mill capacity, the output, etc. You have also the price of inputs, which affect production cost, and you have currency movement, which of course. Now, industries in tropical regions are fundamentally poorer field performance, as we will see. Now, from the benchmarking, we can see that the best performing and lower cost industry, both those with high yield and sucrose contents, as well as good level of factory utilization. Now, industry can try to lower its field costs going forward by boosting productivity, more sugar from the same or fewer inputs, which is the famous maxim, which is more from less. And then we have the question of processing cost. You see, factories with long closing season and average mill size benefit from economies of scale and high rates of capacity utilization. If you have a big factory running for a few weeks, it would be probably more feasible to have a moderate size factory running for a number of months. This is more profitable. Now, as I've said earlier, Brazil, is the benchmark. It achieves high level of performance, and its cost of production strongly influences the world market prices. We have no illusions. Most industries will never match Brazil's performance. However, there is case for hope because performance can be boosted with favorable policy settings and adoption of best-in-class practices, optimal and feasible and sustainable practices. Now, this is the important thing. If you look at the last line, this goes back to 1718, but it's still valuable. If you look at the last line, this is the price on the world market. And you will see even Brazil at the top. Its production cost is more than the cost of sugar at the world market. And if you look at the other countries, Thailand does well, Australia also, but India is not doing well, and Mauritius, of course, is not doing well. Therefore, unless those prices can be brought down, the industries cannot be profitable. And of course, here you see Mauritius with the highest cost of production, but I can tell you of other countries in Africa, for example, like Ivory Coast, which cost of production is higher than that of Mauritius, but they don't export. They produce only for the internal market. Now, in terms of production, among the countries included in the study, of course, the top producers are Brazil, India, Thailand, and Australia. Then you will see where the African countries lie. And the one which stands out is South Africa with nearly 2 million tons of sugar. But many of these countries, as I have said earlier, except Swaziland and the scale of Mauritius, they produce for their local market. the area in the cane, we have to use to scale. This is to show how the area varies in Africa, South Africa, and we have to change scale to put Brazil, which is more than 8 million hectares of cane. Now, this is interesting, is the productivity. The columns are cane productivity, and the red graph, is about sugar productivity. You will see that the best productivity in this study is Senegal, with nearly 19 tons of sugar per hectare. You will see that Burkina Faso is 100 tons of cane per hectare, and 9.4 tons of sugar per hectare. You will see that Nigeria, which has a small area, doesn't do well. You will see that Brazil, the leader, is 77 tons of sugar per hectare, sugar cane per hectare average, with nearly 11 tons of sugar per hectare. And to speak of Mauritius, which is where I am now, we have 75 tons of cane per hectare and 7.5 tons of sugar per hectare. So this gives you the relative importance of productivity. Some small industries like Senegal can do very well, Burkina Faso can do very well, Swaziland also. And their cane productivity is, of course, above that of Brazil and India. Now, benchmarking against one important point, benchmarking is per capita consumption. You will see that Brazil and Swaziland are the highest, and you will see that Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire are among the lowest. So this gives you the relative importance, if you like, utilization of sugar in the various countries. So this vary from about, let's say, 5.1 tons per capita in Burkina Faso to 53.9 in Brazil. Now we'll come back to this later, is about the drivers for the technical performance. But I will come back to this in a moment. Let me proceed with, you see, sugar policy differs markedly between countries. You have the tariffs, you have tariff rate quota, you have tariff rate quota for administration, you have price support schemes, you have custom procedures and administrative practices, you have import quota, licensing and import bans, you have sugar quality standards and export duty. All these factors, they are used differently by different countries, but the baseline is that they want to protect their own industry. You see, if you look at a few of these countries, you will see that the tariffs, for example, they don't vary much from raw to white sugar. But in Brazil, you have a 16% tariff, in India 100%, in Thailand 65% at Valorem, in Mauritius 15%, etc., etc. And this slide is to show that, in fact, all countries adopt in one way or another some sort of mechanism to protect their industry. Now, in terms of in addition to tariff policy, you have other ways, of protecting their own industry, which are shown of this on this slide, which you can read and later look at later. But the idea is, you see, that all countries protect, in fact, their sugarcane industry in one way or another. They see the rest of the countries in the study. We don't have any information for Burkina Faso, but you can see what happens in South Africa, for example, and in Swaziland also. Now, how do we in fact survive, into a single dimensional industry? This is where there is the company case for diversification. Diversification has many aspects. You see, we can speak of niche markets, special sugars. We can speak of green energy. We can speak of bioproducts, bioplastics, etc. All this is part of the future of the sugarcane industry. It is happening already, of course. but it will be even more important in the future. If you look at the various countries, you will see that in terms of diversification, for electricity, for example, Burkina Faso and Malawi and Nigeria and South Africa, etc. at the bottom, they don't really co-generate for the grid from bagasse. But others, of course, do a lot. In fact, cogeneration started in Mauritius in 1957, the first country in the world to do it. In terms of distillery, of course, it varies again. You will see at the top those who are yes, no is Thailand, no is Mozambique, Nigeria, and Zambia. Now, in terms of fuel ethanol, not all countries surprisingly do it, but you will see that the leaders, in fact, Brazil, India, Thailand, etc., they are, of course, well ahead of the others. Now, how we define competitiveness? You know, we can define it as those are and those that are not engaged in full utilization of sugarcane as a renewable source. We can't use sugarcane to produce sugar only. This is gone. You know, what makes you competitive is what you do with the sugarcane biomass. And we have from our study derived 7 key lessons. You see, the first one is continued high level support over the industry long term or significant. These are disadvantages. Tariffs are the most common method of providing price support. Revenue sharing, division of proceeds, is the norm in the sugarcane industry around the world, across the world. Direct price support to growers locks in high production costs. Non-tariff measures and barriers boost protection levels. Our growers and smallholders need incentives to boost cane quality, and diversification is a must and requires supportive government and regulational policy. If we look at these one by one now, for the first lesson, long-term guaranteed high prices do not create incentive for improved technical efficiency and diversification into value-added products. This may appear paradoxical, but long-term guaranteed price is in fact a disincentive. Sugarcane industries in the Caribbean face huge challenges with the removal of the long-held EU preferences, the ACB protocol, and in fact, Caribbean sugar producers and elsewhere have to endure severe cut in income. Therefore, continued high level of support is not a good thing. The second lesson is about tariffs. Tariffs is another way and the most common method of providing price support. You see, but some landlocked countries have considerable natural protection given long distances and high cost in moving imported sugar to the domestic market. So there is therefore a significant disparity in applied tariff levels between trading countries. There is no uniformity. Governments, etc., play around, government industry play around in order to protect the industries, and they have to do it within the context of the WTO and the free trade agreements, but they managed. The third lesson is about revenue sharing. You see, nearly every industry institutes a revenue sharing arrangement between millers and growers. These shares vary, from 60 to 70% for growers and 40 to 30% for millers. And Mauritius has a world record because in Mauritius, the grower gets 78% of the proceeds and the miller only 22, I mean. Therefore, this is a severe drawback for the miller to the advantage of the grower. But what we have learned is that associated gain payment system, in fact, payment is important for producers. Lesson number 4 is about direct price support to growers locked in high production costs. 2 clear exceptions to the revenue sharing rule are, mind you, India and China. Government mandates the payment of much higher than world prices for cane for their small, relatively inefficient farmers. And the lesson is that very few cane growers globally benefit from ever-increasing cane prices, key cause which leads to overproduction in India. The fifth lesson is about non-tariff measures and barriers to boost production level. Beyond tariffs, the level of protection can be considerably enhanced by non-tariff measures and barriers to trade. There are significant differences in the type and duration of non-tariff measures and non-tariff barriers, and ongoing ones will not create incentive for industries to improve competitiveness. So those barriers, in fact, at the end of the day, they represent drawback. The sixth lesson is outgrowers and smallholders, need incentive to push quality. You see? And the more competitive sugarcane industries in the world all have adopted a cane payment formula based on revenue sharing and cane quality. Unless this is done, one of the two parties will feel aggrieved. And finally, diversification. Diversification is a must and requires supporting government regulation and policy. The more competitive sugarcane industries have achieved considerable progress in diversifying their sugar industries, particularly in green energy and in some cases into other bioproducts. Cane bagasse, cogeneration, and fuel ethanol are key options. Governments need to provide a more conducive environment. Of course, we need policy, we need various others. So the question is, where sugarcane is going? Quo vadis Sakaram? Where are you going, Sakaram? Well, what we have learned during that study is that unsustainable low oil prices have considerably impacted on all sugar industries, the big ones and the small ones. No country in 1718 could profitably produce and export sugar at world market prices, averaging 12.77 USD cents per pound, not even Brazil, and this is even worse today. Prices, ISA, over subsequent 2 years after 1718, averaged only 12.65 USD cents per pound, continuing the low price environment in the world market. Some industries with high internal prices have seen an influx of cheap smuggled sugar. This has happened in many countries in Africa. To boost competitiveness, diversification is crucial and will ensure sustainability. A significant global surplus in 1819 was followed by a shallow deficit in 1920. Another shallow deficit is likely in 2021 and perhaps even a small surplus. Therefore, price may not move beyond a range of 12 to 15 cents per pound, which will bite all producers. Now, unfavorable climatic conditions, climate change, is impacting on global output. A significant increase in crude oil, etc., is also impacting on the industry, and as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, as the consumption declines, maybe this should create a significant physical shortage of sugar, making a return of the deficit phase of the world sugar price cycle. But however, we should be optimistic. Sugarcane has a bright future owing to its carbon sequestration properties and its biomass, from which sugar, clean bioenergy, and various value-added products may be obtained or manufactured. Genetic modification. Now that there is the first sugarcane variety genetically modified in Brazil, genetic modification will open new horizons for higher yields and better resistance to pests and diseases, as well as the production of new molecules. Sugarcane will address societal issues such as necessity for food, alleviation of greenhouse gases, and reduction of reliability on fossil fuels. So all this, in spite of the background of world low sugar prices, should lead us to optimism, as I say, provided the present conjunctural situation is short-lasting. In conclusion, I would like to quote Dr. Karimalis. Dr. Karimalis was awarded the 1993 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. He wrote a book called Dancing Naked in the Mind Field. And what he invented was, in fact, the PCR technology, which is being used worldwide to diagnose COVID-19. And Dr. Wallis, who unfortunately passed away last August, says this: there is an important rule in evolution. Don't trouble yourself with details that do not matter for survival, whoever can do something more efficiently survives. I think there's a lesson there for all of us. We have to survive. If we want to survive, we have to look at efficiency and not trouble ourselves with details that are not important. This talk was prepared in collaboration with Mr. Lindsay Jolie, who was from the International Sugar Organization in London, and also with Mr. Les de Penaidos, who works in Mauritius, and Philip Diggs of LMC International, whom we know provided some of the data. Therefore, on this, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Atre,
Thank you.
for your wonderful presentation and giving an insight to what we can do in the low price regime. In India also, we are talking a lot on what to do, how to do, and the seven, the key lessons you have given. We have well taken all those 7 lessons, and I hope industry
Industry
is
is
going
going
to
to
be
be
benefited
benefited
a
a
lot.
lot.
You
You
rightly
rightly
said
said we have to look into
many things.
many things, not looking sugar as the only product which we can have from the sugar industry, and we have to look beyond sugar. We are talking more in India also about the cogeneration or the ethanol, and now we are talking about more than ethanol and more than cogeneration also. You are talking about many niche products which we can have, and there is a market for the specialty sugars or other products which we can have from the sugar industry. So ultimately, our target is, how we can reduce the dependency on the revenues from the sugar, and we can have more revenues from the other streams. So that is important for any of the sugar producing country, because this low sugar price regime, this is impacting all the sugar producing countries. The intensity may be different in India or in Brazil or in Thailand or in any African country. So we have to look forward, and we have to look forward for the diversifications, integrations, and how we can have more products from the sugar industry. Second thing, which is also very important, and we are talking about, is the cane price fixation formula, because as you said, the revenue sharing or quality-based mechanism for making the payments of the sugar cane. So still we are working on that, and the countries do have their own problems. And one of the reasons for the higher sugar prices is the higher cost of the sugar cane. So we have to work on that, and the sugar industry across the globe has to work on that, how they can come out with a logical formula which is acceptable to all the stakeholders. So thank you, Dr. Atre, for being with us and giving a wonderful talk. I hope we do have certain questions from the delegates, and I think you will be kind enough to respond to those questions. But before we go to the people asking the questions, my co-chairman, and must be knowing the person who is the man behind this show, the President STI, Mr. Sanjay Avasti. So Mr. Avasti would like to add something on that.
Thank you, Professor Narendra Mohan. Professor Narendra Mohan, not only our National Sugar Institute's Premier Institute's Director, but also guide, philosopher, friend, and mentor for so many people like me. So thank you, Dr. Atre, for delivering this Gundurao Memorial Lecture. This is a very prestigious lecture, and no other person can be fitted well here other than you. And in this COVID epidemic time, sparing so much time, I personally thank you, and our sugar fraternity in India and Sugar Technologists Association also thanks you from bottom of their heart. Thank you very much, Dr. Atre.
May I add a word? Yes. Well, I would like to greet my good friend Sanjay Awasti, because we have been friends for many, many years, and it is a great pleasure to see him virtually on the screen. And for the benefit of delegates, I think I should add that the International Society of Sugarcane Technologists, the ISSCT, of which I am the General Secretary, will be having his 31st Congress in India in December 2022 in Hyderabad. And we will make of it a great Congress, a memorable one, and the Congress Organizing Committee, in which Dr. Awasthi is very active, and he's also part of the ISSCT Executive Committee. I think we will work hand in hand, and we were going to meet in February, but I think this will have to be delayed with the COVID-19. Hopefully, we should meet in India in July 2021, and eventually have the Congress in 2022. And I think we are looking forward to that. And I think this Congress will attract a lot of interest from all our members. We are members in 64 countries. And I think many of them will take the opportunity to come to India and learn about the formidable and fantastic entrepreneurship spirit of the Indian sugarcane industry.
Thank you, Dr. Atre. And we look forward to all of you here in India, and we'll have a grand show of ISCT here in India. We invite all the viewers who are connected today, and we'll look forward to your visits to India. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Just to announce, Atre, that we have viewership close to 2,500, 2,600 people in this conference on virtual, and 100 people, as per Indian government guidelines, we could not have more than 100 people's gathering. So in this hall from where we are speaking, we have around 100 people sitting here also.
Yeah, good. So you have also a live audience then.
So looking forward to host you in July and then subsequently in December 2022.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Atre.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atre. Thanks a lot for being with us, giving very informative talk. And I think all the stakeholders in the Indian sugar industry got benefited with your talk. The 7 lessons we are going to remember, and we are going to debate and deliberate also in times to come. Looking forward to meet you during the ISSCT. Thank you very much. Over
Thank
to
you.
STI.
Yes.
At 3 p.m., we have a co-product session. So everybody will rejoin us at 3 p.m. And whatever question answer comes, we'll forward to Dr. Atre to answer. We'll send you by mail. Thank you,
Yes,
Dr. Atre.
yes. Send me the questions by mail, and I will make it a pleasure to reply to them.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.